Hey guys, how are you? Okay, so this is sort of a part two of the morning tea that I put last week. I filmed it and I realized that I wasn't being clear with my statements, and I can't put anything out on the internet if I can't edit it to say exactly what I'm talking about. So here is the part two, but really a week later, so not really part two. This morning's tea is green tea. It's Trader Joe's green tea. I think I'm falling out of love with black men. I grew up in a very pro-black household. I watched a lot of black television, and there was a lot of black television on TV when I was younger. The Cosby Show, Different World, Family Matters, The Will Smith Show, another Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Any and every black show, anything that came on television during my childhood, I watched. All of them, and I went to a historically black church, one of the largest historically black churches in Los Angeles. So all of my life, all of my childhood growing up, when I envisioned myself growing up, I was gonna grow up and I was gonna make a black family with a black man, and we were gonna live this upper middle class life or higher, and it was going to be fantastic. Now that I'm at that age, I mean, I'm at the very beginning of that, so, I mean, I've had baby fever since I was 25, but I digress. I've always had this image of myself with this black man and raising this black family and sort of capturing this idea of whatever the American dream or whatever the American look is, to be the all-American black family. I've recently started to feel like that might not happen. And so I'm having to divorce myself from this idea that I'm gonna have that kind of family. The reason why I was raised in that sort of environment is because everything around us, or everything around me as an American, I'm gonna only speak from my personal experience. So disclaimer, everything in this video is my personal experience. If your experience is different, then bravo, and I'm happy for you, but this has been my experience. My experience is that everywhere I look, nothing is black. It's definitely gotten better since my childhood, but I could still watch TV and I can watch commercials and ads and TV shows and not see one black person, or only see one black person. That sucks. That sucks to be living in a country where you are not represented to the full extent of representation. Because of the oppression and because of what happens in this country when it comes to minorities, specifically blacks, the idea of raising this like not perfect, but this like American black family as be successful and raising beautiful, successful children, well-rounded, privileged children, where my children are introduced to a good school environment, their home environment is wholesome and nice and loving and wonderful, you know, and I know every family has its issues and so nothing's perfect, but there's an ideal that I have in my head about what I want my family to look like. And I grew up in a two-parent household in a suburb, so I had a certain experience, and I would like my kids to have a better experience than that. I was raised with the idea that, you know, black people are descendants of kings and queens, and we're a proud race of people, and that we were destined for greatness. I got my hopes shattered, I think the first time in junior high, when I was actually around a lot of black kids and their upbringing was different than mine, and they did not share those views or even understand that I had those views. Right off the bat, it was different. I grew up learning a lot about black history in America, about learning about a lot of our black leaders and really knowing their names and knowing what they did and what movements they started and how they changed either the arts or science, how these black people contributed to the successes that we share as Americans. I came across black kids who don't know their history. I think it's important for black kids to know their history because there's so much telling us in this society subliminally through oppression, telling us that we're not good enough or that we should behave in a certain manner or this is what a black person is. And a lot of black people take in that information and push it out as fact. So a lot of times growing up, I was told that I thought I was better or that I was bougie or I act white. And so a lot of my ambition and a lot of the way I speak and the things that I do are me acting white and thinking I'm better or being bougie. That is something that I wasn't aware of until I was in the 8th grade. And I came across a lot of that where black people just weren't aware. There wasn't like a sense of a consciousness. The black kids I grew up with weren't conscious of their blackness and what that meant and how breaking down stereotypes and breaking down racial barriers were really important. Now, granted, my upbringing of like behaving in front of white people, whatever that means, showing and being a positive black person in front of white people was always, it was something that I think is unfair to be putting on kids, especially kids who you just want to live, but it's something that happened and I don't regret it. I'm able to be around white people and be completely comfortable, whereas I have friends and family members who are not, who are like, oh, there's too many white people here, I'm uncomfortable, and they automatically, when they're around a lot of white people, feel inferior. That is something that I do not want my kids to have. So within the Black community, I glean and I feel that there is an air of can't, I can't. There is a ceiling of where a lot of Black people feel that they really can't go above that ceiling. From my experience, I've heard a lot of Black people talking about, like, really the only way for a Black person to make a lot of money is to be a basketball player, to be a rapper, or to be a drug dealer. And that is not all that we have, but that is all that we think we have. I think in general, I'm not saying every Black person feels this way, but a lot of our poor community of the Black community feels that way. Those are the 3 ways that you can get out: basketball, rapper, or drug dealer. And drug dealer isn't even really getting out of it. Like, it's hard for me to find and navigate and wade through and find these Black men who don't believe that, or who either weren't raised with that or were raised with it and managed to rise above that and get out of that mindset. Now that I'm at the age that I'm at, and I find men who are Black men who are of the same mindset as me, a lot of times they have kids. Personally, I am not prepared to walk into a situation where I'm dealing with a man who has a 2-year-old, or, you know, an 8-year-old, or what have you. So I don't have kids. I got out of my 20s without having kids. I've always felt like having kids, you should be financially set. And I know people are going to say, well, you don't never know, and things change, and kids, blah, 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 blah. You can never plan. But I do think you can control your money, and to a certain extent, and you can plan to raise kids in an environment where you aren't living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people find that as to be okay, and they don't even think about it as an issue, and that's fine, but that's not something that I want for my kids and my family. I teach my kids about savings and teach my kids about those things that I think a lot of Black kids don't get taught by their parents, because their parents are unable to do that, to save and to be financially responsible and to be homeowners or what have you. Because I feel like a lot happens to the Black man at a young age. He is felt pressure from the outside of the community and the inside of the community to be tough, aggressive, be sexually fit, whatever that is, to be cool, to all these things that are pressures put on Black men. And it comes from Black women as well. Young Black women want that. They want the guy who's like super cool and like thug, fake thug, or whatever that is. And by the time, and then so the Black guy ends up, you know, losing out on opportunities because he's so busy worried about being cool. They have a couple kids, and by the time they're 25, 26, and they're ready to move forward with their lives, they can't, because they have all this financial burden from the kids or from whatever choices and mistakes they've made in the early part of their teens, or the late part of their teens, and the early part of their 20s. And there's a disconnect. I think that there are more educated Black women than there are Black men. I could be wrong, but this is from my experience. This is what I see. And so we're often in an environment where we're like fighting to find this man. There's a lot of competition for that. I am at the point where I'm just not interested in that competition anymore. It's been a little bit difficult for me to find a Black man who's ambitious and who understands that he can break through certain ceilings in the work industry and hasn't just settled, has actually decided on a career, or maybe going after what he's passionate about. I lost my train of thought. Oh shit. I don't find that Black man anymore. And if I do find him, he's not interested in me, or he is not available. He's in a relationship, or there's something else going on in his life. And it's become really sad that I've had to like change the way I see myself in the future, change the fantasy of my future. I have to open it up to other races of men, because the most important thing for me is for my kids to see positivity and to not be bogged down as much as I can control with the pressures of what it means to be Black in this country, and the falling into stereotypes. I want them to see within our home positivity of Blackness and wholeness of a Black community and a Black family. Now that I've had to think about opening that up, I'm like, they're not going to see that. And I would love for them to see that, and I would love to be a part of that, but I have to take into consideration that I might not find that guy. I have dated men who weren't ambitious, who weren't making 6 figures, who didn't go to college, who barely graduated high school. I've dated all manner of that kind of guy who's Black. And I just find that at the end of the day, we have such different ideals and different goals, and I don't want that to be taught to my children. I don't want to have kids with them, even though there might be a nice person, but I want I want a certain something that that man can't provide for me. I'm like, bravo to the, whenever I see a black family, I'm always like, oh, she found one. She found a good black man. I have a higher standard for black men than I would for any other race of men. Because the thing is though, any other race of man isn't going to have, not any, but I mean let's just use white for example. Like, there might be some things that white people feel like they can't do, or there's a ceiling, or maybe they don't have enough privilege, or maybe they didn't grow up rich and so they feel like they can't really do much. But there isn't an outside influence telling them that they can't. Like, that's coming from within. There isn't a lot of added pressure that's stopping them. And maybe there is, and I just am not aware of it. And I don't know that I'm gonna ever find that black man. And it's so sad, because I don't want to settle. That's the thing. I don't want to settle for the guy who's super nice, but like says things like, oh, black people don't do that. I can't stand that. I made gingerbread for Christmas, and I took it to my cousin's house, and he's like, black people don't eat gingerbread. He's never even heard, like, most people I know don't even know that gingerbread is an actual like loaf, like zucchini bread and like banana bread. Like, most people don't even know that gingerbread comes that way. So it's not that it's like black people don't eat that. Like, most people don't eat that. And he said to me, like, black people don't do that. And I was just like, no, I don't want that in my household. I don't want, oh, black people don't do that. I mean, yeah, I say that sometimes. There's some things I'm like, no, girl, black people, no. Like, you know, but there's stupid things like skydiving. Like, maybe somebody gets upset about that, but like, it's stupid stuff like spelunking or whatever that is, that cave diving stuff. I'm like, what black people do you know do that? I'm sure there are black people that do it, and I'm not knocking any black people who do it. I'm just saying, like, that is different than like something as simple as gingerbread. That is different than something, and maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm being a hypocrite. But I don't want that mentality, even on a smaller scale, even on a subliminal scale, to be in my household, that because you're black, you can't do certain things. And I think a lot of black men who allow that to stop them from ascending and being being as great as they can be, it stops them. And there's a lot of like excuses that go on. And I'm just like, you have to just mentally get over the ceiling that you have created, or that your mother or your parents or society or your, you know, family has created for you, and just bust through. Like, be that lawyer. You can do it. It's not, anyone will give you a loan to go to school. You just have to make sure you pay it back responsibly. You know, I had some guy tell me that because he had a felony when he was 18, he's 31 now, he doesn't even have his resume together. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm not really good at that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you cannot let that stop you. You're 31 years old, you have a child, get it together, figure it out, write a resume, get a job. Like, period. Don't let anything stop you from being the most and the best that you can be. And he's somebody who's like, feels like he's a conscious black man. He was talking to me all about like black history and like the conspiracy that white people have to break down black people, and how he doesn't even want to consider himself pro-black because he's black and he loves his people so much, yet he doesn't even know how to do a resume. Like, in order to play the game, this American game of like making this money and having this society where black people are affluent and loving each other and great, you have to play the game and make the money. And if you can't play the game, then what are you talking about? Like, if you can't compete, then what are you talking about? I don't get it. I don't get how black people like to get on soapboxes and start talking about how like the white man is holding them back, yet they can't even write a resume. Like, compete. Like, join the fray, make the money, make your black diaspora, become an entrepreneur, you know, do whatever, do your black apps and your black internet, do whatever it is you want to do, but like, join the fray, figure it out, make the money and make the moves. Don't let whatever stigma and oppression or whatever hold you back, because there are black people who are judges, there are black people who are president, there are black people who are senators. You know, we do have them. It is something that you can do, and not all of them come from privilege. Some of them come from very poor backgrounds. You can do it. You just have the ambition to have that. You just have to have the ambition and believe that you can do it. And that's what I want in a partner. And let's change the notion of what being black is, and let's move forward, and let's, you know, have babies. So I really think the pickings are slim. I know that there are other people out there who agree, and black men, you can get mad and say, oh, black women do this, black women do that, but I'm a black woman who wants a black man but can't find one who is on the same page as I am. We need to be on the same page. I know you're gonna want to talk to me about this. I'm calling out all black men. Like, I want to have a conversation. Let's talk about what's going on in the black community, what you think is going on in the black community, how you think that I'm adding to the oppression of black men, or whatever. I hope that I do get that nucleus black family, but if I don't, I will be just as happy and just as loving to my kids and my husband, and he will be lucky to have me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.